everybody, and welcome back to another episode of From BA to Broadway. You know who it is. It's me. It's Brennan, and I'm bringing you your general programming reminders. Folks, every Monday we are here with the main episode, and every Wednesday we're bringing you the minisodes with Danny and I in the spotlight. Check it out. But that's enough about us. Nobody cares about us. That's not what we're here for. Folks, today I am joined with the lovely, the handsome Mr. Daniel J. Maldonado. Dan, what is going on?
Nothing much, Brennan, nothing much. I'm excited to finally be here.
I finally got you here. I nailed your feet to the floor. You're not going anywhere.
I know. For those who don't know, this has been
a long time coming.
A long time coming. For about like a month or two, we've been trying to figure out scheduling, and I've always had a rehearsal, or I've always been away, or getting married, or whatever the heck
It'd be like that. He's a busy boy. But I got him. Dan, who are you and what the heck do you do?
Hi, all right. I'm Daniel J. Maldonado. I am an actor currently in Anne Juliet on Broadway.
Yeah,
I'm a swing in the show. My swing name is Fletcher, so sometimes you'll see me on stage. The beret track, if anyone who has listened has seen the show, I probably have been on. And I also cover Romeo. I am the first cover for Romeo. So anytime Ben Jackson Walker's out, I'm the first one in. And that's
amazing.
That's me in a nutshell. Right now, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah.
Dan, how do we know each other?
Oh, how do we know each other, Brennan? I'm kidding.
You're literally like, how the fuck did you get in here?
No. Brennan and I go back, but one of my best friends in the world worked with Brennan on a contract. What was it, like now, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Crazy.
In Northern California, correct?
I believe so.
Sure.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't near San Diego.
No.
In like Northern California, they worked together and they became fast friends. And when we came back here, my friend Brandon is his name. You've heard him on his podcast, actually.
Friend of the pod, Brandon Walters.
Friend of the podcast, correct. He started inviting Brennan around and to all of our events, and we all became fast friends. And
we didn't actually meet via Brandon the first time.
Oh my God, it was through Katie.
We met through Katie. Brandon
Katie
can't
Garrity.
even have that. No.
I can't give it to Brandon.
No.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. That one night that I came over Katie's apartment.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That was fresh off of the contract. And you were talking about your engagement that just happened in Puerto Rico. And I was like, wait, Brandon also has a friend named Dan that just got engaged in Puerto Rico and is in Anne Juliet.
Right. You know, I always find I forget that night happened, and then all of a sudden I'll see I'll scroll through my photos and my camera roll, and I just see all the photos and videos that night, like the TikToks we made, everything. I was like,
what a great time.
Ripped me right back. I genuinely forget that night happened.
You know what? It was a long time ago.
It was. Well, because it was also not the night that we actually
Of course.
You know.
Yeah.
Became
kissed
friends
for the first time.
Yes,
100%.
Correct.
Of course.
But wow, yeah, ripped me right back. 2 years. 2
Oh
years.
we're so old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Wow.
2 years flies by.
Really does.
When you're busy 6 out of 7 days of the week.
Oh my God. God help us all. Dan, did you go to school for theater?
I did indeed. I did. I went to Rider University. I have got my BFA at Rider, go Bronx. I graduated a semester early, so fall of 2017. Well, graduated, I put in quotes. I stopped classes.
Of course.
A semester early.
Yeah.
I didn't do the full walking and get my diploma until 2018. And I've been working professionally throughout college and ever since graduating college.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like your program prepared you for the career side of the theater world?
That's a great question. If I'm being completely honest, yes and no.
Okay.
I know that's a really political answer, but yes, in a lot of ways that honestly, one of the best educations I got was about how to be a swing.
Amazing.
We had a whole section of one of our dance classes that was dedicated to being a swing, where one class we were all off to the side. Our dance teacher brought in 2 underclassmen to come in and pretend to be people in a show, while everyone who was in the class was off on the side writing down the choreography, writing down the tracking, doing all the stuff.
Damn.
And then he would pretend people had to go do costume fitting, so he would tag people out and tell people to go in and jump in and do a track. It was fairly simple choreography, and it was doable,
for sure.
But it definitely was like a real life experience. This person has a costume fitting. You have to hop into this track. And then the next class after that was I guess our exam, if you would say. And he would just have us all go into the track. He would be like, okay, you're in this person's track. You're in this person's track. You're doing this. And then we would swap and do, so it was a really great experience.
That's
that
awesome.
is something.
I haven't really heard of many programs doing anything like that, especially in this day and age when it's so necessary.
100%. And, thankfully, because our dance teacher was a swing extraordinaire back in his day. So he really wanted to harp on that. And it was really one of the best educations I got in that regard. And then on the tail end of that, no, I did not get great preparation, because there's a lot to the business side of this business. It's literally a business, and we throw the word business around, but no one ever really talks about what the business is. Exactly. And the true business side of things, like the benefits that actors have, the union, what benefits there are for joining the union, why it exists, what each contract entails, what are your rights in each contract in the union, what can you fight for, what shouldn't you fight for. Your taxes. How the hell do you file your taxes as an actor? Budgeting as an actor. We had like one small thing on budgeting as an actor, but it wasn't, honestly, what it did more than anything was terrify us. Because we were like, oh, our monthly budget is almost $4,000 and we're working, great, no problem.
But I make $4.
Correct. There was no solution for that. It was just letting us know, hey, by the way, it's going to suck. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So what do we do? and being in the business now for 10 years, I'm like, oh, there are things that you can do. You can, incorporate yourself and have write-offs and deductions and things like that. But there's so much to the business that I'm learning every single day that I did not learn in school that I wish I did. And it's a pretty common experience, I feel like, across the board. I don't know many schools really that do have a class that sits you down and is like, hey, this is what the business is. And I'm not talking about the social aspect of the business. This is what monetarily, financially, longevity wise, this is what the business is. This is what you are going to experience. Yeah. Producers view this as a business. This is transactional. Things are transactional. There is you may be lucky enough to come across a production that is truly artistic and fulfilling while also being transactional. But for the most part, a lot of it is transactional.
100%.
And you are a little bit of a cog in a machine.
100%.
It's very much similar to the corporate world.
Yeah. Do you feel like you learned all of that trial by fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. 100%. Because even when, you sit there on the first day of rehearsals and all the people who are spending all their money for the show to come up are sitting there in front of you telling you, oh, this is so special. You all were hand selected, blah, blah, blah. It's like any other business. They can and they will get rid of you if they have to. Yeah. They can and they will work you to the nth degree because they're legally allowed to. Obviously to the legal limit, but they'll do those things. There's no, if you want to go to, take a day off, you have to use a personal day. You have to use these things that are given to you, but you might not get any extra.
100%.
If you use your personal days or if you use your sick days and you want to go do something else, go see a family member get married, you might be shit out of luck, because you used your personal days. And these are the things that they don't necessarily tell you. Here are things that you can try to negotiate for, the benefits of having an agent, the benefits of not having an agent. I distinctly remember one of the big things that they did talk about business-wise was the determinant of joining the union. Yeah. Because there's more work as a non-union actor, 100%. Which is true. However, the existence of non-union work will never gain traction as performers. Yes. Because we will always be taken advantage of. I mean, non-union actors are consistently taken advantage of every single day. And it's gotten so bad to the point that people are so desperate for work now. And because being non-union offers you the literal full opportunity to be in any show ever, people are so desperate that now basically more than half of the national tours right now are non-union. That's true. And they are fully being taken advantage of. Yeah. 1 week nights, 1 week this, 1 week that, constantly traveling, getting nothing really for pay, getting nothing, and not saying that the union contracts are much better because what we just negotiated isn't really great in my opinion. However, there are some protections. Yeah. You at least have something, you have a contract written up that says they can't do this, they can't do this, they can't do this. Whereas a non-union tour, they can quite literally do anything. And it always troubled me, the advocation of staying non-union until whatever reason, because perpetuating non-union work is going to perpetuate being taken advantage of. That's true. Yes, if everyone decided to join the union, yes, work is going to get harder to get. People, it's going to be difficult, but it also forces the hand of some people, of the producers, that they won't have actors to go on these tours. They won't have actors to work at these theaters. They have to provide some type of protections
For sure.
for actors now.
So at what point in your journey did you take your card?
I was fortunate enough that right after graduating, was able to accept my card. I got my first union contract, which was Moulin Rouge.
Okay.
Up in Boston.
So you got it via the contract?
Yes, via the contract. And that was what I had sworn myself. Like, this, tying back to what I said, like, I swore to myself I wasn't going to accept the card if I had the points, even though technically, if you have the points, that means you did the work to be good enough to be in the union. That's the thing, is like, joining the union, you have to be good enough.
So you were EMC prior to that?
I was EMC prior to that, yes.
Gotcha.
But the mentality of deterrent from joining the union makes you think that, like, you have to be good enough to be in the union, which is such a BS. It's such bullshit. And that was my mentality. I was like, I'm not going to take my card until I am offered an equity contract, because then that means I know that I'm good enough to be in equity. I'm like,
for sure.
It's bullshit. If you book a job, period, you're good enough to be in equity. Yeah. Sorry. It's just the truth. The amount of people I know who are amazingly talented but stay non-union because they're afraid of losing the talent pool, or they're afraid that they're still not good enough, or they're still, which is like insane, because they're deterred from doing it. Now, there are plenty of people. I also know someone who was in the union and left the union because it was like, there was more work. He wanted to do, he enjoyed the non-union work. That's totally fine. I'm not saying to make it completely obsolete, but I just feel like the tables are tipping right now in less in favor of
100%
union actors. But yeah, so Moulin Rouge was my first union contract, and I definitely learned a lot in that summer that I was there, because I was working with people who have been on Broadway or a part of the union for years. Yeah. And hearing the things that they were like complaining about, or we were having meetings about, or they were, just generally upset about, or wanting to fight for, or whatever. Yeah. I was sitting there with my mind blown, because the year before I was doing that, I was at a summer stock job, doing 5 shows in one day, waiting tables, cleaning bathrooms and rehearsing on a wooden deck in the backyard, and fighting for my life.
You had to wait tables?
Oh yeah, it was full Dirty Dancing experience.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
We would wait tables, and then once we put our orders in, we would go backstage. We would be writing out our checks while also then performing in the cabaret. So we would be like tallying up our checks, figuring out everything, what everyone owed, putting in the orders, pausing to go on stage to sing a song, onto the cabaret stage, sing a song, come back, finish it, go back, and then go back out.
That sounds miserable for everyone involved.
Yes. It's quite literally, if you have seen the movie Dirty Dancing, that's what I did.
Heard.
It did give me some EMC points, so it allowed me to be EMC, but it was a lot, and I was not making any money. Yep. Any money. Like $200 a week is not. I actually probably could have made more working at a minimum wage job. It's less than minimum wage for the amount of hours I was working.
Yeah.
And so hearing these people complaining about the stuff in Moulin Rouge, I was like, I can't believe, like, did you guys forget what non-union work is like? Like, that was my mentality, which I do stand by a little bit, because it's like, there are some things that people, get upset over that I'm like, guys, well, we got to, like,
100%.
Like, we have to, there's a give and take here. We can't get everything we want. But now, being who I am now and looking back, I really realize that there is a lot that performers are taking, because if we don't stand up for these things, if we don't fight for these things, if we don't complain, then we never stand a chance of getting it fixed ever.
When you're in this business of like chasing your dreams, it's also very easy to lose sight of the fact that you are a human being and deserve to be treated as such. Correct. Which is crazy to think of, but it's rough.
It is. It really is. And that's such a good way of putting it, is that you get so, the rose-colored glasses are like constantly on, especially when you book a job, because you're just so grateful that you have a job and you're so happy to be there. And, it's either a harsh reality when they get ripped off of your head
100%,
or you try so desperately to keep them on, but they're like getting cracked, they're getting dusted, they're getting whatever.
You're like, I look great, I still look great, right?
Yeah, exactly. God. Or if you're fortunate enough, the rose-colored glasses can stay on, but then it's also like, if you keep the rose-colored glasses on and you just allow things to happen, then things will never change. Yeah. Like the higher ups, the producers, these people, they will be more than happy to have nothing ever change.
For sure.
And that's not good, because there's plenty that we could change. Constantly. And there's certainly a lot that we can change in this business.
Yeah, I'd say so. Maybe just a smidge. Damn. Okay, so you were a part of this production of Moulin Rouge at ART, correct?
It was Emerson.
Oh my God. Was this planned to go to Broadway already?
Yes, we
Okay.
just did not have a set date. It was always
Understood.
labeled pre-Broadway. Here's the thing with any of the out-of-town tryouts,
Mhm.
anything is, they'll label it pre-Broadway, it's always projected to go to Broadway. Now, obviously, there are elements that could deter it.
Yeah.
It's just natural. It's a part of the business. Like, a prime example was like Devil Wears Prada. Like, that was
Yes.
pre-Broadway out in Chicago, but it got ripped to shreds,
Mhm.
and that was the end of that,
Heard.
period, end of discussion. And there are a few projects that like they'll do their out of town, they'll do
Yes.
whatever, but it just doesn't get received well, or
Mhm.
it's not, it's not entirely ready yet, or a backer backs out, or whatever the situation is, and it can prevent it from coming. So even with Anne Juliet, we were
Yeah.
fairly certain it was coming to Broadway, but we do know, and we were told that this was like, they didn't know if it was going to be received well by a North American audience.
Valid.
They knew they had to change some jokes or some words because,
Yeah.
in the UK, they use interval to say intermission.
For sure.
So we had to like change those little things, maybe change some jokes to match more American humor than British humor.
So just for the context, your pre-Broadway run was in Toronto.
Yes.
Correct?
Mhm.
What does that look like in terms of joining this cast? Kind of like, what is the process of from pre-Broadway to Broadway, and what does that look like for you as a member, and what are the guarantees and what are the
Yeah.
non-guarantees?
No, totally. I mean, now having done 2 shows, the pre-Broadway,
Yeah.
I have air quotes up if anyone wants to, the pre-Broadway productions.
Can confirm he is doing air quotes.
The pre-Broadway, 2 pre-Broadway productions now. One I continued with, which was Anne Juliet, and one I was not asked back for, which was Moulin Rouge. And those are the changes that can happen.
Yeah.
Like Moulin Rouge, I was not asked back.
Mhm.
Like, it's not guaranteed. The Broadway, just because you are part of pre-Broadway does not always guarantee you that you are part of Broadway.
Yeah.
A lot of times they will keep that if everything's right, if everything's meshed well, if everything makes sense. Or if they are just like, we set this cast because this is the cast we want to bring to Broadway. Like, they
Yes.
know head on. Like, that was our experience with Anne Juliet. When they cast Toronto, they were like, this is the cast we want to bring to Broadway. Even if things are like, need to be figured out, or if people aren't really living up to entire expectations, maybe we'll adjust things because we want this person for some reason. Whereas a lot of other pre-Broadway productions are based off of what you bring to the show, what does it actually work now that we see you on stage in this production? Like, are you exactly the person that we are looking for to help tell the story?
Yeah.
Or,
So then in that interim in between, is everybody having to re-audition to book the Broadway?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. For the most part, no. It depends I really think it depends on the length between the pre-Broadway and the Broadway, and how much they are actually planning on changing from the pre-Broadway production to the Broadway production.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they changed in Moulin Rouge. I know that there were quite a few changes, but nothing that was so drastic or dramatic that they had to find entirely brand new people for the onstage cast.
Understood.
For the most part, if I'm remembering correctly, most of the onstage cast who was in the pre-Broadway Boston run moved to Broadway. But I do know of shows that they really only keep like their main person, or like 1 or 2 people or 3 people or whatever, and they get rid of everyone else because that just was not the right fit. I know
sure.
there was experiences like that in Death Becomes Her. I have a friend that
Heard.
was a part of the pre-Broadway but was not asked, and he was on stage. So anything's possible. Anything can happen. And there are no guarantees.
For sure.
For sure.
I feel like
And so, the changes
Heard.
that can happen in between also completely varies. Like Anne
Gotcha.
Juliet, we really barely changed much in between. We like maybe took away a verse or 2 and like maybe added a few lines and like took away a couple of lines, but there were no like major scene rewrites. We didn't like add a song or take away a song entirely.
yes.
Moulin Rouge, from what I've heard, they did take away songs. They did add songs. They did change choreography. They changed things. There was a lot of changes, like bigger changes that still happened between pre-Broadway and Broadway, which is where they probably were like, we need to cast new people.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what's going to move people around, move some covers. So it's all one big puzzle. And you, unfortunately, are never playing the puzzle. You are the puzzle. So,
Gotcha.
and the puzzle has pieces that don't fit and the puzzle has pieces that do fit. And they're figuring it out at the same time.
For sure. So in that same vein, like when you are in a Broadway production, how long has Anne Juliet been running?
On Broadway for 2 years.
2 years. Okay. So as we know, every year all productions are required to do an annual EPA ECC situation.
Actually, I think it's two a year.
Yes,
every 6
you're
months.
correct. And I feel like every time the postings go up, all roles are listed there and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any conversation on the Broadway side of having to get renewed halfway through or whatever in terms of that? And like, I guess essentially, how many of those roles are typically actually available in your experience?
Yeah. In my experience, because
my assumption would be none.
Yes.
If it's on a biannual basis.
Yes, you'd be surprised. It really just depends show from show.
Yeah.
My experience with Anne Juliet, my first 2 years at Anne Juliet, we were all locked into a year contract.
Mm-hmm.
There's a specific kind of contract that the union offers called a term contract. And what that means is that we are locked in for a full year and we don't really have many outs. So
Gotcha.
we have a blackout period of 6 months where we are not allowed to leave at all for anything. And then after 6 months, we have to give them 8 weeks if we want to leave. And we can only leave for a Broadway principal contract.
Understood.
That's how strict that term is. So when those EPAs and ECCs were out, no, they were probably not looking for anyone really.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are occasionally times, like we did have some people leave. We did have some people who were able to get out of that contract and negotiate and figure it out. And we did have people who left, not at the year mark, but maybe 6 months in, 7 months in, 8, whatever, however long. So those EPAs and ECCs, they do pull. The reason they have them is for future replacements and future casting, whether that's immediate or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know I've heard that the ECC or EPA just went out for our show, I think like last week or something, and we just got a brand new cast.
Heard.
So
yeah,
like they're not looking for anyone in that EPA ECC, but they will be looking for people for replacements. They have people that they'll keep in mind. Oh, I saw this person. I really like this person. Obviously, they're not going to be in the show right now. Do you know if
a lot of the replacements have been coming from that pool of EPA, ECC?
That I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't know. I do know people who have booked the show originally in our original cast.
Yeah.
Michael, actually, who you had on
Amazing.
your
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. They booked this show. They self-submitted. There was a submission out. I don't know if it was an ECC per se, but they self-submitted they saw a post on Playbill about auditions and they submitted their self-tape and they booked the show from that.
Amazing. Were they in Toronto as well?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So those EPAs and ECCs for the most part are just like standard procedure. But that being said, some shows do have people on a 6-month contract.
Yes.
So those EPAs and ECCs, that person's contract is up. They might be looking for someone. Like we have some people whose contracts are ending in January. We have some, so like that next ECC EPA might actually be to replace those people or whatever. Now, this year also a lot of us we're not on that term contract that I mentioned before. We're on a 4-week out, so we can leave whenever we want for whatever we want, and we just have to give them 4 weeks. So if I decide, hypothetically in February I'm done, I give them my 4 weeks, and then March rolls around. They have 4 weeks to hold auditions. And if it times out, that could match up with when the ECC EPA is. Or they could have just had an ECC EPA and they're using that ECC EPA to, they know that, oh, this person's leaving, this track is leaving. Let's take a look at these next auditioners to see if there's anyone that can replace this person.
Yeah.
So they're not entirely useless.
100%. Yeah.
I know it can feel that way a lot.
Totally.
It absolutely can feel that way, especially for Broadway shows because they are required and they're not always fruitful. But they do hold on to your name. They do remember your work. And obviously for non-Broadway, for national tours or definitely for regional theaters, those ECCs and EPAs are the real auditions.
Gotcha.
For the most part.
Love that.
Yeah. So like if you're going in for a regional theater, ECC, EPA, those are the auditions.
Heard.
The real ones. So like go to those if you want to like really actually try to get some fruitful information. Those are not like a 6-month requirement thing. They're looking for their season.
Great. We love to hear that, everyone. We're going to take it back a hot sec, back to like sick time and all that kind of stuff, just ripping the curtain back on that. What does that kind of look like in a Broadway contract? And is that something that accrues yearly? Like, do you get more each year?
So
is a Broadway contract something where you see a raise if you are with it for more than a year?
Yeah, those are all really great questions. So the typical format is the Broadway contract. For the most part, I think there may be like 1 or 2 theaters that are not on this contract. It's called a production contract. It's probably one of the highest paying production contracts you can get as an actor or as a chorus actor, I should say. I'm also strictly speaking on the chorus behalf. I have not received a production principal contract, so I don't know what that looks like. There's more negotiation leeway if you're on a principal contract. So that's like, take that with a grain of salt. But for chorus contract, typically there is a minimum that you have to be paid every week, no matter what.
Amazing.
On top of that minimum, there's some bonuses, or perks. So if you sign the term contracts that I mentioned earlier, you get an extra bump as like a thank you for locking yourself in. You get a media fee. So that covers basically everything that you might have to do in front of a camera, in front of, for social media specifically. If you do televised events, you get paid separately for that.
Yep.
But it's just the ability to use your face in social media, and, that's what that media fee is for. If you do any specialties, so if you're a swing, right now the swing bonus is 5% of your weekly pay, which is not enough, if you ask me. 5%. And then if we do currently we just negotiated this, if we do a split track of 5 or more tracks in one single show, we get an eighth of our salary on top of added onto the week, which is the same as if you're a principal. If you understudy a principal and you go on for that principal, you get an eighth of your salary.
Understood.
Bonus.
Yes.
And then if you're a specialty role in the show, which Equity comes in and they see the show and they label which parts are specialty, and what that means is like there's a featured ensemble role that helps tell the story. Like the show would not be the same if that ensemble role was not in there.
Gotcha.
That's how they describe it. That's an extra bonus, and you get a bump for each one of those roles that you play. And if you understudy those roles, you also get a little bump for that. So there's little bumps here and there. And then you start the contract with, it was just negotiated. It used to be just 2 personal days, which are unpaid, 2 unpaid personal days.
That's crazy.
Now we have 3.
Wow. How luxurious.
And then we get 2 weeks of paid vacation.
Okay.
The tricky part is it's not like we get 2 weeks to use and break up of paid vacation. Like we have to take off the full week. So you are gone for a whole week. You can't break it up. You can't be like, hey, I'm going to take some vacation this weekend and be gone Friday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to use some paid vacation, because it's not paid vacation days. It's paid vacation weeks.
Heard.
So we get 2 of those, 3 personal days. And then we get 2 compelling circumstances personal days. They're also unpaid, but they're specifically meant for weddings, graduations.
Understood.
Big events that like you shouldn't have to use your actual personal days that you want to be able to use for something else on. And then the last thing is you get bereavement. You get 3 days of paid bereavement. That's the base.
Understood.
You get sick days. You accrue those. I believe it's every 4 weeks. I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
But every 4 weeks you get a sick day.
Understood.
That's what I had understood. And then you can borrow sick days. If need to. I think you can borrow, up to 6. Because obviously if you start a contract, you haven't really been working much long on the contract to accrue sick days. And if you have the flu, like you need sick days. One thing about sick days is that sick days are not full days. Sick days are per show.
Okay.
So if you miss a 2-show day because you have the flu, that's 2 sick days.
That's rough.
That is, in fact, rough. It used to not be that way, but I do think people started taking advantage of that, which I get.
Understood.
But it does feel a little rough too, considering that we don't have many sick days to begin with. So if I miss a 2-show day because I'm actually sick, that's 2 sick days, and that's tough.
Is there a point where production can step in and say, hey, you're really sick, you need to not be here?
Yes, I think it depends. I mean, mostly that happens if you have like a doctor's note. Obviously, if you're injured and you go to a doctor and they're like, you need to be out, we have medical leave that exists. Great. And if you got injured during the show, you get workers' comp, you get paid for that. Like, that's totally fine. If you don't have workers' comp, because one thing about New York is that you don't receive workers' comp until after 7 days of being out. So you have to be out for a week before you can receive workers' comp.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
So essentially, like if you get injured on the job and you're only out for 3 days, you're not going to get workers' comp payment. Yes.
Woof.
Again, understand, because people would have taken advantage of that, of course. So you need to literally be missing over 7 days of work for workers' comp to kick in. But our wonderful union, and when you go see a show during Broadway Cares, they talk about all these, the Actors Fund.
Yes.
The Actors Fund is actually there to help you in lieu of workers' comp.
Big
so
fan.
if you are out for 3 days and workers comp is not going to cover you, still file the claim so you can go get, taken care of, go to the doctors, it's on the workers' comp claim, but you're not getting paid from workers' comp. The Actors Fund is there for you to help. So you can just, again, something I had no idea until I was told working on the show. And you can message the Actors Fund or people from the union, and they're like, hey, I was out, I got injured on the job. I was out for 3 days, and, I can't collect workers' comp. And they're like, okay, how much did you miss? When did you do it? Blah, blah, blah. And then they send you a check for
That's amazing.
the money that you missed.
Honestly, huge shout out to the Actors Fund.
Correct.
Is it? No, Entertainment Community Fund.
Entertainment Community Fund. You're so right. I've said this speech so many times. It is formerly known as the Actors Entertainment Community Fund.
Yeah, so the just tip for all New York actors who are turning 26 and are about to be yeeted off their parents' health insurance and don't know what health insurance is. If there's anybody out there, crazy, random scenario, of course, if you call the Actors Fund, you can literally be like, hey, I need insurance. I don't know how or what or when or why. And they will literally sign you up, take you step by step, and kind of do it for you.
Yeah.
You just kind of give them your information and your income stuff, and they will find the plans that you are eligible for and nudge you in the right direction. So I literally got my health insurance through the Entertainment Community Fund.
Yeah.
And it's just a really great resource. So always really appreciative
a little
of
plug
that.
for them. And also, it's not just for, like, the reason they changed the name from Actors Fund to Entertainment Community Fund is if you are involved in the entertainment community in any way, you're backstage, you are an usher, front of house, stage manager, actor, performer, like in any capacity, if you are an entertainer to any capacity, the Entertainment Community Fund is there for you.
That's amazing.
And that's something that no one really actually knows.
Yeah. Do you know if that's New York only?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No.
Great.
Because that's we raise money for Broadway Cares for the entertainment community, which helps, I think, everyone across the country.
Amazing.
So definitely look into it. I could be wrong. I really could be wrong. But as far as I'm aware, as far as I've been made aware, it is not just to New York.
Understood.
You can call the Entertainment Community Fund, or at least call the union. The union is obviously nationwide, and they'd be able to point you in the right direction to who to call to help you out with that. Yeah, they do a lot of, they provide mental health services. They do a lot.
And we be needed now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. If you can't, if you still can't afford insurance, health insurance, they can point you towards, doctors or healthcare providers that are cheaper or something that you can, they're there to help you a lot.
That's a really great resource.
They help you with your taxes. Like the union has a whole tax bracket that helps you with, they have volunteers that come in and help you do your taxes as a performer, because Lord knows we've all been screwed by our taxes.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
It's a first come, first serve basis, so it's pretty much a bloodbath, but they do have that happen.
Yeah.
Or they can point you towards resources or other accountants that do taxes for performers, because it is a different ballgame and a different beast than, your average Joe's taxes. But yeah, there's a lot of benefits that the union and these other programs provide.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
This has been so deep and heavy on the business of it all.
Business. It's
Damn.
true. It's things that, like, I know I had no idea existed and no one told me until I figured out on my own.
For sure.
And it's something that is not taught at every school. It certainly was not taught at my school. And so people go into a panic. I think it's part of the reason why a lot of people get, people talk about this burnout, and part of the burnout that happens of being a performer is that, like, you struggle to live, you struggle to survive, you struggle to, make ends meet, but you don't always have to struggle if you knew that these programs existed to help you not struggle, to help you, afford healthcare, to help you maybe find jobs that are flexible, or maybe help you kickstart another career if you want to start another career, or just be there for you when you are, maybe in between shows or not doing so well or not doing so hot in general. Like, there's no longer this sense of panic of like, I have to be making X amount of money forever, forever. And if I don't book this job, I'm going to starve.
Yeah.
That's not what this, these
and I feel
like
generally speaking, like, that education kind of probably still doesn't happen in other fields. But, like, I think the assumption with other fields are you get some form of steady 9-to-5 job and then they provide you all of this stuff. So you don't really have to figure it out or learn how to do it in that regard, So it's definitely just a fun little wacky thing that we have to deal with when we're not guaranteed work, or we don't have an employer, quote unquote, where we're not protected by the union in that regard. So
it certainly makes things less scary knowing that there are things out there that can protect actors. And you also don't have to be in the union to partake in any of these. Like, the Entertainment Community Fund is for everyone, is there for everyone and for everyone. We do Broadway Cares. We raise money twice a year, every year for a reason. And it happens countrywide. And we have, the Easter Bonnet, the Red Bucket Follies, Broadway Bears. Like we do all of these things to raise money so that Broadway Cares can continue to fund these other programs. Because that's what they do. Obviously, Broadway Cares funds a ton of programs across the country, but their main program that they fund is the Entertainment Community Fund.
Totally.
And that is there to quite literally protect actors when they are not doing well.
I feel like I should get someone on from the Entertainment Community
That would be a great idea. I wish I knew anyone from them.
I'm going to put a pin in it.
But that sounds like a great idea because they would be able to really give you more information on that.
For sure. Brilliant. You're brilliant. Dan.
Thank you.
Stop.
Stop it.
Okay, so let's take it way back. So you started working professionally prior to graduating college.
Yes.
How did you get on? Or also, why don't you tell the folks where you're from? And like, did you have that kind of artistic upbringing?
Oh, yes. This is my origin story. My villain origin story.
Oh my God. My villain.
I know. No, so I grew up in New York. I was born in Manhattan, actually. Like being really specific for going my star sign.
What hospital?
NYU.
Oh my God.
NYU Langone.
Wow.
I was born. First half of my life I grew up in Queens, and then the latter half, my formative years, I grew up in Long Island.
Understood.
Shout out to Merrick, Long Island, and went to school in Jersey. That's where Ryder was. I started doing theater when I was in middle school. When I moved out to Long Island, I moved out in 6th grade, and my town had a weird thing. Like most middle schools are 6th, 7th, and 8th grade across the country. That was not the case for because our middle school was small and they could only fit 7th and 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
So 6th grade was still in elementary school. And that's when I moved out. So I moved out to the last year of everyone being in elementary school. And there were 3 elementary schools that were like the main 3 in our school district, or my sector of the school district. And every year the 3 of them would come together with the 6th graders and they would put together a show.
Lovely.
And it was the big thing. Everyone always looked forward to it. Everyone always did it. It was so much fun. It was a way to connect with people from the other schools because then you all go to the same middle school together anyway. And I had never done theater before. I was scared. Everyone knew each other. And I was like, I don't really know. When my teacher asked who's auditioning for the show, I was like, certainly not me. And then when everyone raised their hand, I was like, ooh, we'll see.
There you go.
I did not audition for it. I was too scared. But I was like, I'll be a part of tech crew. That sounds
amazing.
Fun. And I definitely made some friends in tech crew. It was a lot of fun painting the sets. It was The King and I, by the way, of course.
Oh, of course.
If anyone was wondering, it was in fact a show that we should not have done. And I painted the sets and then I sat and watched the show in the audience and I watched all of my friends having an absolute blast on stage. And they were talking about it for months about how much fun it was and how exciting it was. And it was something I never knew I could experience
for sure.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it next year because I'm going to do it in middle school because this sounds like fun. Everyone really seems to be having a good time and I want to experience that too. And then 7th grade rolls around and no one else auditions for the show.
Oh no!
except for the theater people, like people involved in theater. Like that's when I realized that there is just like a theater group, and then the 6th grade thing was just because everyone wanted to like be a part of something.
Understood. But
anyway, I stuck to my guns and I auditioned in 7th grade, and it was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I had the absolute best time I've ever had in my entire life, and I never looked back.
Who were you?
Oh, I was one of the brothers.
Lovely,
of course, and dance captain. If
wow!
If you could imagine.
Were you a dancer?
Amazing. I was not. I mean, I had rhythm and I could remember the choreography, and that was all I needed to be the dance captain.
Yeah.
Or a dance captain. I think there were 2 of us. For a 7th grade musical, let that really sink in.
The stakes are very high.
The highest, frankly. And yeah, I never looked back from there. And I still was too afraid to really like take it super seriously. Like my parents would be like, "You want to take dance classes?" I remember my parents asking me if I wanted to take dance classes before I moved to Long Island.
That's awesome.
And I always said no. I was bullied back in Queens, and I was just everyone was.
So literally that, everyone's been bullied. Correct. Come on, Dan.
So it did deter me a little bit from taking dance classes and doing things that like actually sounded pretty interesting to me.
For sure.
And then that just kind of stuck with me. I still never took dance classes, even when I found an interest in theater, because I was getting smoke blown up my ass. Yeah. So I was like, I'm great. What do you mean? I don't need to take dance classes. I don't need to take voice lessons.
I'm the dance captain.
Yeah. And that kind of carried throughout high school, because also at the time I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do it full time. I was still looking at other things, like not pursuing it as a full-time career. And then it wasn't until probably junior year that I was like, I want to do it.
Yeah.
I want to do it. Because what I was initially going to do was I was going to be an engineer, and then I was going to just pursue music. And I was like, well, maybe I should try to find something that I can do with music. And I was like, let me be a music teacher. And then I finally saw the requirements of what I needed to do to audition to be a music, to get into music education programs. And I was like, I am not prepared for this at all. You need, by the way, any music education majors out there or want to pursue that, you need to know like 4 different songs in 4 different languages from 4 different decades.
Crazy.
So let that sink in. Prepare yourself now. I certainly was not. And that immediately deterred me from it. Because I was like, I have 3 months to put that together. And I'm not learning a French song from the 16th century in 3 months. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. No. And that's when I was just like, okay, I'm going to pursue it. And then I kind of shot myself. I was kicking myself because I was like, I really then wish that I was taking classes, like taking dance classes, taking voice lessons, taking acting lessons, whatever it was to prepare myself to pursue this. But that's hindsight 2020. Then I went to school. And while I was at Rider, that was really kind of when I got whipped into shape. It was really the erasure of like, this is just like a fun hobby to like, this is going to be your career. Like, this is like, you have to hone in this skill.
For sure.
These skills matter,
Yeah. Hone your craft.
Exactly. Otherwise, you won't get further in the career.
Yes.
And I still had fun doing it. It was when I realized that like I'm still having fun while I'm learning and maybe being torn down a little bit to get picked back up again. That's another reality of theater school. You will get your ass chewed out by an acting teacher who probably has not worked or acted really in a very, very, very long time.
Yep.
It's a shared trauma bonding experience.
By a sad little man.
Yes.
Oh.
And yeah, I started working professionally in college. I did. And by the way, I consider it, if you get paid to do anything performance related, that's working professionally. I'm not talking about like being in like one of the best. I'm not talking about that at all. And my first summer is actually where I worked with Brandon Walters and Danny.
Oh my God.
Danny Solly. That is like, I don't consider that necessarily my professional acting debut. Technically it is. I did get paid for it, but it's like a half. It was like a stepping stone up. And I think we could all agree on that. And you could ask Brandon and Danny, I think they would agree.
It's definitely still on your resume, right?
Oh my gosh, of course. Indio and West Side Story. Yes, which I missed 9 performances of because they just let me.
Oh my God, amazing. What a great gig.
Anyway, the next summer was when I worked my first summer stock performance. And I worked at that job 2 summers in a row. That's the place that was like Dirty Dancing. We did 5 musicals in the summer.
Oh my God.
5 musicals, 5 cabarets that also matched the musicals, and a children's show.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you were in every single one of them?
And we were in every single one.
Oh my God.
We were in every single one of the musicals. Actually, that's a lie. My first summer, one of the shows was Into the Woods, and there's only 16 people in the cast. The theater I worked at was an equity theater, so they had to hire at least 4 equity actors per show. So there were some, I was a swing in that show. Although, fun fact, one of the stepsisters, my good friend Taylor, she was like really ill, like in the hospital before one of the shows. And they were ready to throw me on as a stepsister.
Incredible.
In case she couldn't be back in time. And she did. She was okay. Ended up being all okay.
It.
But I was given a ticket. I was handed a ticket and a script and told to sit in the audience for one show and start learning Lucinda to go on the next day.
That's so funny.
A Sondheim musical. They were going to throw me in a dress and a wig and put me on stage just in case this girl couldn't.
What I wouldn't give to see your drag debut as Lucinda.
When I tell you, I was sitting there trying to like, it's literally Into the Woods, like trying to like memorize the words and the rhythms and just like all
a voice
of it.
Part that probably wasn't even designed remotely near you.
Correct. And I was literally sitting there, and nowadays, if someone tried to do that to me, I would literally laugh in their face and push the ticket back and tell them you're fucked in the head.
Of course.
You can cancel 1 or 2 shows. I'll happily learn the part, but I'm going to need at least 2 days.
Understood.
Because I was being told to literally learn the score, the words, and the blocking from watching one show to debut the next day.
So
just
funny.
In case.
Holy shit.
It was horrifying. And thank God I did not have to do that, because that would have been probably that's like quite literally like your worst nightmare as an actor to come alive. Like we all had that dream where we're like somehow cast in a show in a role that we've never seen or heard of before. And they're like, you're on. And you're like, what do you mean?
I don't think anyone would have saw you in that performance and been like, wow, this man is not giving the most amazing performance. Shame on him.
I would have been giving an SNL version of Into the Woods because I would not have known unless they gave me the script and score in my hand, which they would have had to. There's 0% chance I would have learned it. I would be improvising the entire show. I probably would have been a hit if you ask me, honestly.
I agree.
Because everyone's like, what the fuck is going on stage? Again, it never happened, and I'm so glad it didn't, because that would have been such a traumatizing experience.
There's still time.
There's
a lot of life left.
You know what? Honestly, being a swing is kind of like that at this point. Like, I could get a call or a text like in the next 5 seconds and be told that I have to be on for someone in the Juliet crew track, which I've never learned.
I love that. How many roles do you cover in the show?
In the ensemble, I cover 6, and then I cover Romeo, so 7 total. But again, in an emergency, if I have to, I can step in and do any of the Juliet crew. We call it Romeo crew, Juliet crew, to separate the crews, the ensemble. In a pinch, or if I need to, they could throw me on for Juliet crew. Understood. And that'll be that.
Love that for you.
Yes. Oh, also fun fact about the union, you are not allowed to know or be asked to learn more than 10 tracks in a show.
Oh,
they have to pay you more if you learn more than 10 ensemble tracks.
That feels right.
That does feel right, although
someone thought it wasn't right until this point.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. Except unless you're a dance captain. Dance captains, you do have to know every single track.
Gotcha.
But that's written in. You get a lot of money to do that.
Understood. I love that. Oh, wow. I don't want to keep you. You currently have a 2-show day. What does that look like for you?
I do have a 2-show day. I just came from being on stage. And I mean, our current schedule is nightmarish with our 5-show weekends. I highly despise a 5-show weekend. I understand why it's done, but I do not like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it one bit. It's just exhausting. And when we use the normal schedule, normally we would have a 3 p.m. show, and then we'd have like most of the evening on Sunday, a full day off on Monday, and then most of the day off on Tuesday. So it would kind of feel like 48 consecutive hours off. Now with a 5-show weekend, like that's like cut in half. We kind of have a night if we want to on Sunday night, a full day off Monday, and then half a day off on Tuesday.
And the schedule usually switches like several times a year, right? So there's
it depends on the
mats
show
or something.
Yeah, so normally like our current 5-show weekend schedule is we have Wednesday matinees. We have Wednesday night off right now, which is nice. It's very nice to have that because I can go see other shows. I can go, I have for the first time ever one day that I match my schedule like with my wife and with my friends like who work 9 to 5s who are, on a normal person schedule. But it does take away from the weekends. Like I don't. The days that my family and friends have off, I'm at work the entire day. Yeah. Which kind of sucks now. And the 5-show weekend is draining. It's just draining.
I can imagine.
Doing two show days back to back is just exhausting.
Also, Times Square on the weekends is
horrible, horrific. And we are right off of Times Square, which honestly I'm happy about. I don't have to really walk through the belly of Times Square to get to my theater, which is really, really nice. I can't imagine having to do that every single day. That would probably end me. But yeah, it's exhausting. And thankfully, I don't believe I'm on tonight because tonight is Betsy's last show.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I do think a lot of people want to be on or there to some degree. So, I mean, I've had the past couple of shows off, so I'm not that mad about it if I have to be on. But hopefully I'm not because I'm hungry and I want to eat during the show and enjoy and be able to watch Betsy's last show from the audience. But yeah, it depends on the day. Like some weeks are tough because I'm on more often. Yeah. But some weeks are much easier because I'm not on as often. Like this week really wasn't that bad. I think I was on twice.
What's your favorite downtime activity for shows you're not on?
Oh, it really depends. I love it's a rarity because our show is so wild. But when all the swings are off stage, we haven't had one of those shows in a very long time. It's very fun because we all chat backstage. We're all maybe playing a game. Yep. When it's appropriate, maybe we start drinking. I know. Don't listen. Plug your ears. I'm saying when it's equity one. Yeah. When it's appropriate. Yes. We don't start from the downbeat of the first number.
I don't think we've ever talked about that. There is an equity rule that you are allowed to have one beverage.
It's an unspoken equity rule, but yes.
Yeah. Typically between shows or before shows
between
or after
shows, sometimes you just need to let loose a little bit and feel like you're living a somewhat normal life.
Of course.
And sometimes it really does help you get through the show. Yeah. Sometimes.
Some of the best
That's the second
performances
show.
happen because of that one.
Because that
because
Equity
of that
won.
one single and single only Equity drink.
Won. Wink, wink. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so those are fun nights. And also, honestly, I love, like, if I know I'm not scheduled on and like I have a lot of things to do, like you know, emails to send, emails to type up, whatever, forms to fill out. That's nice because I have this time etched out that I can just sit on my laptop, no distractions, and just like type away and do life things that
For sure.
I wouldn't have time to do at home.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's just with how frequently I've been on in this show, any night off is a blessing.
Heard.
So I've really been like milking that for the past like week or so. Because next week is our big, not next week. This upcoming week is when is the last show for a lot of our cast.
Gotcha.
So we're having our big cast changeover. So this week, I think most people are going to be in the show. We're trying to do the show this upcoming week. So, and this past week and the past 3 weeks, I have not been on that often, which has really been a blessing. Yeah.
And then next question, do you have any advice for folks who don't have any form of like swing education built into their curriculum, or they're not going to college or whatever, but that is a skill set they would like to have?
100%. I mean, I think the first thing is that there's no right or wrong way to be a swing.
Understood.
You will see people who it's tactile. They have to write everything down in a notebook that they have. They write out all the choreography. They write out all the tracking. They do all that stuff. You have people that really need the organization of it all. That's how I was taught, like being super organized, like writing out all the tracking, writing out everything, which is helpful when you're learning the show for sure. But over time, it's not, I don't find it necessarily, like I have my tracking sheets for like my first covers that I was told that I would go on for. And then after that, I was like, I don't need to write all the tracking for everything. Because like truthfully, once you've been on stage in one track at some point and you've seen the backstage traffic and you see where you enter and you exit, when you complete that show and like the actual jitters of being in the show for the first time is done, you feel like you can do anything.
Amazing.
And I think the biggest advice I really can give is that like you will learn it all.
Heard.
Like you will learn it. It can be so overwhelming, especially in rehearsals, especially like when all of a sudden you see this one track doing something, but you've been focusing on this track. You're like, how the hell am I going to learn all of these tracks at once? Like you just have to take a deep breath and know that you will know it. We're also in the digital age. It's so great.
Yeah.
You can film the show and watch the film. So like, God forbid you're thrown on for a track that you have not been practicing. You can just skim through
for sure
a video and be like, okay, this is where this person goes. This is where this person goes. Great. And then go backstage and quickly do it. Hopefully you're in a show that's like not Hamilton, where you're on stage the entire time. You have some time off stage to like really skim through a video and just make sure you're in the right spot. And I guess like what I do as a swing, what helps me out is just like learning all the choreography first. Don't even worry about tracking first, because you'll stress yourself out if you get to a track and you're like, oh shit, I didn't learn this choreography. You know, learn every bit of choreography first and reverse it all always, because you never know when, especially if you're in a new show, you can learn something and then 10 weeks into it, they're like, actually, we're going to reverse this side and you guys are going to go the other way. And now all of a sudden you have to reverse it. So like, I just reverse every piece of choreography. I get all of that in my body. So it feels good. I know what I'm doing. And then you can go to tracking. You can kind of do it simultaneously, but like my priority is choreography first. Get that into your body, know what it is, because then tracking becomes so much easier.
Yeah.
Tracking then just becomes about, okay, what prop does this person pick up? Where do they enter? Where do they drop off? What traffic is this? Versus being like, what choreography does this person do while this person's, they do-si-do here. Yeah. But you just like, you know, if you do like a little do-si-do, let's say, rather than it being like, how do I do this do-si-do around this person for this specific track? It becomes, okay, this is the do-si-do. I see they go this way.
Heard.
You know, it's in my body. I know what I'm doing. Oh, it goes left. The do-si-do goes left. Great. I can go left this time and I go left versus right. There's a lot of advice. But again,
no kidding.
Every swing is different. People do different things. And I say like, find the thing that works best for you. And that's going to find success.
There you go, folks.
There you go.
Start swinging.
All right. Yeah, do it. Honestly, most people, their first show, especially if it's like a major show, you'll probably be a swing. You probably will be a swing. It happens.
It sure does.
You will most likely be a swing at some point in life.
And I don't know if I have the brain space for it, but that being said, still hire me, please. Yes. Dear God, hire me. Dan, you got any more advice for the little Dans out there?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I always say that like the best advice I give to anyone I teach at like master classes or anything is that there's a few, but my favorite one is like there's no timeline.
Sure.
It's very easy to compare yourself in this business. It's very easy to see what other people are doing at certain points. It's very easy to get frustrated that you feel your career is not taking off or you're staying stagnant or whatever. But it's so, so important for you to remember that there is no timeline.
Yeah.
There are people I was reassured that in this show. I'm working with people who have been in 3 Broadway shows and they're 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked with people who were 38 years old and making their Broadway debut.
Amazing.
I'm working with people who are, 48 and they've been working so long in London, but they came over and they're making their Broadway. Like there's no timeline for this, you just have to trust yourself and really just be there for yourself, advocate for yourself in the best way possible. And that includes if you need to take a step away from theater for a second, take a step away from theater for a
100%.
second. Like remember to relearn to love the business.
You should
again.
always love it.
Because you don't want to force yourself into something when you don't really love it or if you don't really want to do it.
Totally.
If there's an inkling of a want or an inkling of a try, always continue that.
Yeah.
But, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate for your mental health.
For sure.
And one of those things is like, there's no timeline. There's no, just you're there for yourself. Mm-hmm. If it's a no, there's a million reasons why you could be told no.
Yeah.
That have nothing to do with your talent, that have nothing to do with your, your ability. Also, you are going to be told no. Mm-hmm. There's a trajectory here, Yeah. You could be told no, and that no could be no for now. Mm-hmm. That no could be no for this, but yes for this other project. That no could just be like, no, you're just not right.
For sure.
There's any reasons. There's a multitude of reasons, but just remembering that like you're on your own track versus like, there's that saying that it's like you'll never step forward if you're always looking to the side.
Sure.
Right. I think something like that. I heard that. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice.
There you go.
But I think it's something along those lines.
Yeah.
Someone can correct me if they want to, but you'll never move forward if you're always looking to the side.
Yeah. What's meant for you will not pass you by. So you just got to have faith in that and love it.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go, folks. Boom.
And that's that on that.
People out there in the world, go out there, get doing it. We are rooting for you. We are your biggest supporters.
Amen.
And you can be our biggest supporters by finding us on Patreon, folks. That is patreon.com/BA to Broadway. Your normal disclaimer, we are not gatekeeping any vital information on there. That is just for fun, silly bonus content. As always, you can find us on most social media platforms at BA to Broadway. Keep an eye out because we got some exciting stuff coming up. Dan, where can folks find you if you want to be found?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, really, mostly. Or TikTok. It's kind of fun. At Daniel J_Maldonado. I'm starting to get into TikTok with the kiddos.
Oh my God.
Charlie D'Amelio's in our cast now.
That's so quirky of you.
That's so
quirky. Wow.
But yeah, Instagram is at Daniel J_Maldonado.
Amazing. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Love you. Appreciate you.
Love you.
You're welcome here anytime.
Of course. And
folks, until next time, bye.
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 From BA to Broadway is created, produced, and edited by Brennan Stefanik, music by Dylan Kaufman, and cover art by Jordan Vongsithi.